In today's video, I'll show you the only tax hack you'll ever need in retirement. And no, it's not about opening up a Panamanian shell corporation or setting up a Swiss bank account. It's about understanding the number one advantage that you have over the IRS that many retirees aren't even thinking about. Because once you understand how retirement income actually works and how it's different from your working years, you'll see that the real strategy isn't about chasing write-offs, legitimate or otherwise. It's about understanding how to structure your withdrawals in a way that allows you to control your income for as long as possible. And retirees who don't understand this simple concept, unfortunately, often end up paying dramatically more taxes over their lifetime than the ones who focus on what we're about to talk about today. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Benjamin Brandt. I've been a financial advisor for just about 20 years, and I want to help make your retirement even better. Now, the first thing we need to understand, and once you understand this, you really recognize the number one advantage that retirees have over the IRS, is that there's a fundamental shift that happens when we move from earning our paycheck to living off of our savings. When we're working, there's really very little we can do to move the needle significantly on taxes. Our paychecks arrive every 2 weeks, and most of the income and withholding decisions are already made for us. What we can do are a few things around the edges, right? We can max out our 401ks, right? Contribute to an HSA if we're eligible, and maybe make some charitable contributions or deduct home mortgage interest. But really beyond that, the options are pretty limited. In fact, itemizing our deductions used to be one of the biggest tax levers that we could pull, but since the Tax Cut and Jobs Act in 2017, that nearly doubled the standard deduction, and actually over 90% of payers are just taking the standard deduction now because it's just bigger and more generous than itemizing our individual deductions, right? In 2026, the number to beat with our itemized deductions is $16,100 for a single taxpayer and $32,200 for a married couple filing jointly. So again, a pretty decently high bar to jump over with itemized deductions, and you can see why 90% of people just take the standard deduction. So during our working years, there simply aren't that many meaningful ways to reshape our taxable income, but that changes dramatically in retirement. Once we're living off of our savings, we're no longer stuck with a fixed paycheck. Instead, we can decide exactly where our income comes from, right? From taxable accounts or IRAs or Roth accounts, not only where the money comes from, but how much we take from each account. And that flexibility really gives retirees a powerful advantage, the ability to shape their income in a way that can dramatically improve their tax outcomes. Some basic examples of that could be intentionally deferring distributions, intentionally deferring capital gains, netting out gains and losses out of your taxable brokerage accounts, or simply living off of your Roth IRA to intentionally create low-income years if we're looking for something like additional tax credits or premium assistance from the Affordable Care Act. Or maybe we do the opposite, intentionally bringing forward income, right? Reaching into the future and bringing forward cash flows. Common examples of that would be tax gain harvesting and Roth conversions. And that leads us to our number one advantage that we have over the IRS. The IRS just looks at your income every year, December to January, each year on its own, right? 2026, separate from 2027, 27, separate from 28. Each year stands alone, right? But in retirement, especially for super savers, who I identify as having saved over $1 million, usually in tax-deferred accounts, we get to think about our income over 20 or 30 years, sometimes longer, sometimes even multi-generationally if we have children. We get to decide the proper order of operations to take that income, and we get to decide how to modify that income over multiple decades so that we pay the least amount of taxes that we can legally get away with. That could mean things like Roth IRA conversions, where I'm bringing forward tens of thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars per year because I believe I'm going to pay less taxes now than I'm going to be paying in the future. And paying more taxes in the future could be triggered by many different things. It could mean that my account balance is larger and the taxes associated with that larger balance are just higher in the future, which seems at least somewhat likely. It could mean that I'm switching from married filing jointly to a single filer status because unfortunately one of us is going to die first. It could mean just paying the devil you know versus the devil that you don't know, because who knows how taxes might be assessed in the future. Or it could mean that I'm reasonably sure that I'm not going to spend all of this money and somebody's going to inherit it, and the money sitting in my IRA or my 401k, well, will my children be paying a higher tax rate than I'm paying now? Remember that super savers tend to raise super savers, although sometimes it skips a generation. And if that is in fact the case, how can I create opportunities to help pay some of their tax bill? Now, of course, some people will say, hey, if my kids inherit anything at all, they should be grateful and I don't care about the taxes. And you're certainly entitled to that perspective. But many people would say if they want their children to inherit as much of their net worth as possible, whether I pay the taxes or they pay the taxes, I would rather the money go to them than to the federal government. So if I can reduce taxes for my kids, well, it's just more money that they can inherit. Again, everybody's perspective is different. That's why they call it personal finance and not everybody finance. And this is just how I personally think about these things and what we do for our clients. If that makes sense for you, then it does. And if it doesn't, I guess that's okay too. But that is the context of why tax planning in retirement is radically different from tax planning while we're working. Now, the only tax hack you'll ever need to understand in retirement is this. You want to maintain control of your income for as long as possible, because in retirement, there's a limited window on how long we have that control, especially for super savers who have saved over $1 million in 401ks or IRAs. There's usually a window in the early part of retirement, often the first 10 years, where we have almost complete control over what our income looks like. But unfortunately, that window narrows and eventually fully closes. The main thing that is closing that window is required minimum distributions, also known as RMDs. So if you have tax-deferred assets like 401ks and IRAs, RMDs are going to start in your mid-70s. And at that point, the IRS begins forcing you to take income, whether you want it or need it or not. It's mandatory. That's the required part of that distribution, which unfortunately means that you lose some of the control that you had earlier in retirement. And that leads to the concept of what I call the perfect RMD. And if you understand this concept, it really will be the only tax hack, or at least the most powerful tax hack, that you'll ever need in retirement. Now, I don't think you'll hear about the perfect RMD from any other retirement channels because that's a term that I made up years ago, and it's really pretty simple. The perfect RMD is simply a smaller dollar amount than you were going to take out anyway. So I'll give you a quick example here. Let's say that I want $100,000 per year in retirement income. And by the time I'm in my mid-70s, maybe half of that comes from Social Security and the other half comes from my IRA. So $50,000 from Social Security, $50,000 from my IRA. If my required minimum distribution is anything under $50,000, excellent news, I've got a perfect RMD. Just by taking out the amount that I was going to take out anyway to support my lifestyle, I'm automatically satisfying that RMD requirement. That's a perfect RMD. Now, to give you another example and a bit more clarity, let's flip it around and look at the opposite. Let's say I still only need $50,000 from my IRA, but my RMD is $85,000. Now, that's what I would call an imperfect RMD. I'm being forced to take out more income than I actually need. And what's worse is that once we have that imperfect RMD, it can get even more out of hand because of how RMDs are calculated. RMDs are just about guaranteed to go up every year because of two factors. The RMD tables require you to take out more every year, and hopefully, your investment account balance goes up every year. And if we break it down into percentages, I'll give you a simplified overview about how much you'll need to take out each year. It starts off pretty slow, but it piles up pretty quickly. So age 80, you're going to have to take out roughly 5% of your total IRA balances every year. Age 90, about 8%. And age 100, over 15% per year if you live that long. Now, without fail, every time I talk about RMDs and losing control of your income, I see the same comment pop up time and time again. If my RMDs are so large that my income spikes in retirement, well, that sounds like a good problem to have. Well, I got to tell you, I do not agree. Right? When I see a large RMD spike someone's income later in life in their 80s or 90s, what it signals to me is missed opportunities, right? Two missed opportunities in particular. The first one is that we could have spent more money sooner. The shiniest of your golden years in retirement is usually that first decade of retirement, right? Those are the years where you typically have the most health, the most energy, and the most flexibility, especially when compared to your 80s or 90s. If you're being forced to take out more income than you need later in retirement, well, that means that earlier in retirement, we probably could have spent more had you simply had a more robust tax plan or a better retirement income plan. And not doing that means we may be violating one of the two biggest risks in retirement. The first one is running out of money. Sadly, that tends to be our only focus in retirement, both in my industry and for retirees broadly. But the second is dying with regret. And if you can see that you're being forced to take more income later than you actually need, well, that means we know we could have spent more money sooner. And the second missed opportunity from imperfect RMDs is tax planning. When we end up with very large RMDs, it often means that we didn't take advantage of that early retirement window to do things like Roth conversions or just simply spending more money sooner. Again, that gets us the same place tax-wise as a Roth conversion. And many people honestly are opposed to Roth conversions because they say something like, well, what if I don't live long enough to see the benefit of that Roth conversion? And maybe that's true, but we also have to think about our surviving spouses and we have to think about our beneficiaries. Somewhere down the line, somebody's going to inherit that money and somebody's going to have to pay those taxes. If that tax savings from proper planning doesn't go to a human being, well, then it almost certainly goes to the government. Remember that the IRS is always a silent partner in your retirement accounts. Whether you personally live long enough to see the savings or your survivors do, pipers must be paid. So back to the only tax hack you'll ever need in retirement. The question we want to be thinking about is the following. At what point in my retirement is my tax rate likely to be the lowest? And is there an opportunity to recognize income during that window instead of later on when my tax rate might be higher? If we ignore those opportunities, either because we don't know about them or because we don't take the time to plan for them, we're effectively lighting money on fire. And if you're a super saver, the idea of lighting money on fire probably bothers you, even if technically you could afford it. And that's why I make these videos, to encourage you to think about these things and hopefully take advantage of them. And if you want help structuring your perfect RMD and taking a bite out of that lifetime tax bill, I think you'll want to check out my Retire Ready Blueprint. Click the link in the description to learn more. And if you really love learning about retirement planning as much as I do, but you don't want to sift through the entirety of the internet every week, check out my newsletter called This Week in Retirement. That's my curated newsletter where I find the best things on the internet about retirement planning, and I put them right in your email inbox every Thursday morning. So I do all the heavy lifting so that you don't have to. All right, that's what I've got prepared for you this week. Until next time, I'm Ben Brandt, and I hope this video helps to make your retirement even better, and I'll see you on the next one.